No vídeo de hoje, nós teremos a parte 2 da nossa entrevista com o Izaac, lá do projeto The Forever Reef, diretamente da Austrália. Ele vai mostrar e contar um pouquinho mais como eles fazem todo o cuidado e o manejo dos corais lá nos tanques deles, tá bom? São mais de 2.500 mudas de corais por lá. Então, se você ficou curioso e animado para entender um pouquinho melhor, já se inscreve aqui no nosso canal, deixa o seu like e vamos lá seguir o pessoal do Forever Reef Project no Instagram, tá bom? Vou deixar o arroba deles aqui, tanto nesse vídeo quanto na legenda, tá bom? Já sigam lá, já acompanhem lá o trabalho deles, que eles fazem um trabalho exemplar, muito bacana, muito importante para nós aquaristas. Então, sem mais delongas, vamos embora para esse vídeo.
See if this works. I'll take you for a walk with me.
All right.
So these are our sumps in here.
Okay.
So this is one of them down here, and I'll show you one of the larger ones. They're essentially a carbon copy of each other, but we run the Triton method.
Okay,
So
Triton.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Triton method, but the guys are based in Cairns here, so they're nice and close.
Yeah.
So they're massive supporters and have been absolutely fundamental for us. So we base all of our filtration on that method because we've seen such amazing results from it as well.
All right. So macroalgae, right?
So we start, yeah, so we've got some keto algae, we've got some live rock, stuff like that as well. Obviously the heart of the Triton system.
Right.
And we have just a protein skimmer, and we go down into another reservoir over here where we've just got some carbon. We've got some roll-off that we change to AL99 every now and again.
All right.
And then we've got some titanium heaters and a chiller at the end. So very basic, but we like to run a very organic system. Because we're collecting from the wild, we know we're going to have pests, other animals coming in, but we just want to adapt with them because they're not necessarily a bad thing. We just need to work with them and moderate them.
Yeah, nice. And like about parasites, how do you handle this? Like, do you have any quarantine, or like you dipped corals, or just like do some observation and take them out? How do you do it?
So we do coral dipping. We try to do coral dipping whenever we move corals around the tanks, and depending on whether we can see any stress on them, it really depends on what we're seeing in our water quality test with Triton and our physical results. So we do a lot of coral dipping, but we use a lot of, again, organic methods where we're trying to use fish.
Yeah.
So a lot of different wrasse species that can constantly monitor out of over 2,500 frags in here at one time because we're getting ready to set up these new tanks. And so having those fish constantly monitor and constantly pick at any flatworms that come in are integral for us. We're a very small team. We're only about 5 or 6 staff.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Did you want me to repeat any of that?
No, I heard that you got, like, you use the fishes and the wrasses. I thought, I heard you say something about the number of frags. How many frags do you have here, there?
We have over 2,500 frags at the moment. We're trying to hold the numbers down until we scale up a little bit more with the new tanks, and then we can continue fragging.
Yeah, like me as a coral farm, like we know, like, just like you guys, because you're almost like a coral farm, right? That when the corals take off, they simply, like, we can't stop them, right?
Yes, yeah, very. And it's, for us, it's not necessarily having the numbers of corals, but just keeping a species as well. So these guys are growing like crazy. So we're trying to make the most of every bit of coral that we can without damaging or affecting other species.
Yeah. And like, once you said, like, you guys like a lot of fishes to do the hard work, right? So do you have any issues on controlling nutrients like nitrates and phosphates? Or like the ketos helping on it?
We have the opposite issue. We're currently dosing so NH alpha and some other Triton products to boost our phosphates in the water.
All right.
Because we have so many corals, we do have a large amount of fish, so like chromis and other bits and pieces in some of the LPS raceways. But we're a little bit on the low side at the moment.
All right. And like, what was like the most challenging coral that you guys had, or the most, like top 5 maybe?
That's a good question. I mean, I'd like to say certain aquapora species because we don't know how a lot of them, or what a lot of the nutrients they need. Thankfully, the Triton guys are doing research on the reef systems and can tell us the water quality that they come from. we see a lot of color differences when they first come in. But I think for us, it's going to be this guy over here. I'll see if I can show you.
All right.
So this guy is special to us. He's a Signorina.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's been with the project for a long time. So he's actually gone through all the ups and downs with us, but he's survived, thankfully, from the early days when we were experimenting. So he's probably the hardest one that we've had to try and keep.
All right, that's crazy, right? Because like sometimes we think like you said, like acroporas might be the hardest one, but for example, in my experience, like when I first set up the farm, the first coral that I lost, because it's normal, right? Some corals they end up dying, right? It's part of it. Like the first coral that I lost was like a galaxia. I was like, come on, man, galaxia.
Why? It happens, but every system has a personality. So you're just finding out the personalities of those systems that you can work with.
Yeah, exactly.
And for us, we've moved so much now that it's not necessarily even the systems, but it's trying to make sure the corals are okay while moving. And ironically, acropora transports very well compared to a lot of LPS corals that slough off.
Yeah, and they're meaty, right? So it's really easy to get hurt. Nice. And what is like the easiest coral that you kept there? Like the one that like grass, like grows and grows and grows, and you guys can't stop him.
I'm not trying. I don't want to offend you then, but Galaxia. We have these little frag plugs. Awesome. So we have these little frag plugs, and so these guys at the moment just completely taken over.
Okay. And they're such aggressive coral, right? Like, how do you handle the space with it?
I know, they take up so much real estate. I was just going to point out quickly as well, when we do the collections, we actually have microchips inside our bases.
Nice.
So we can grab all the data that we collect out in the reef, and we can actually collect all the data that we have in these systems as well. So we can scan this, and it'll tell us what Charlie's identification is and all the data that comes along with it.
All right, this is awesome. Like, it's totally traceable, right?
Yes.
You can know,
all
like,
the data that the scientists need.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. And what is actually your favorite coral?
My favorite coral, it's going to be some of the encrusting Montibora species that we have here.
All right.
Just really, really cool.
Like it.
We've got a few that the polyps are so small, but they've taken on this almost like electric blue look, and the polyps are still not white, but like a very bright kind of tan color, and it makes it look like a night sky.
Nice.
So there's some of my favorites.
Amazing. And I can notice that you guys using like Orphic lights, is it?
Yes.
Is it like icon? What type of it?
Yeah, so Orphic Atlantic icons. The guys at Orphic have been absolutely incredible as well. I've been working with Tommy, one of the sales reps there, for a while now. And they actually custom made the lenses for us so that we could get the intensity that we need while having them at a certain distance away from the tank, because we're constantly going in and out of the tank, as you would know.
Yeah.
So, and they've got such a large, and they're just bulletproof. So for a place like this, for us, it was a bit of a no-brainer.
All right. And what about like flow? Do you got any wave maker? What do you have inside the tanks?
Yeah, so we actually we try to take advantage of everything that we can. So we have VCA random flow generators onto our return lines, and we've got a few of those throughout the raceway. There's the one behind us is just over 4 meters. And then we have a couple of MP60 Vortex pumps down the end, MP40s, and then we're using a Vectra L2 as our return pumps.
All right, good. And I can see, like, for me, it's like a really big challenge to maintain like LPS and SPS soft corals at the same tank, because like you need to give them the right flow, the right light. And how do you guys manage it? It's such a difficult thing. Like in my case, I get separate tanks, like one LPS tanks with low flow, low lights, and SPS tanks, high flow, high light. So I know that there you get everything mixed up. So how do you handle this?
We do the same as you. So we separate them, LPS and SPS. Like you said, it's so difficult because they come from similar but different environments to the point where you've got like a small crossover of where the ideal environment is for these corals. So we separate them as well. So I've got the LPS straight behind me, and I've got 2 SPS tanks at the moment.
All right. So like every tank of you guys is a different system, or you plug different tanks in the same system?
Different systems. So we like to collect from different locations in different reefs, and then separate the corals out with similar conditions. All of these guys came from the Cairns region, out from a reef called Pixie Reef and Sudbury Reef.
Okay.
Raceways. So the Queensland government has said that we can't actually legally return corals from a closed system to the Great Barrier Reef yet.
Okay.
They're experimenting with it. But it's going to be about 5 or 10 years for the policy to catch up.
Yeah, but it's also really important, right? So because once we trying to do this, we need to make it right.
Yes, 100%. So all very important, but it takes time again. And so what they've indicated is that when we put corals back on the same reef system, they need to come from that, I guess, region, if that makes sense. And we need to keep them on those regions, which is why we're looking at these hubs. So when we collect the corals from that reef, we can have people there locally look after them, but then put them back out to the reef when, or if, hopefully we don't need to, but if we need to.
All right, it makes total sense, man, total sense. And I just saw like you guys are using alcatronic, are you using dosatronic also to supply with the Trident method?
We're very grateful to a lot of our partners. We've got so many partners and people that have supported us because we're non-government funded. So everything you see has been funded by the public or by companies that are willing to help. So we've been working with Andrew from Focustronic. So we've got alcatronics in here, which are very fundamental to the Trident method for us. Dosatronics, we've just got our first Mastertronic Essentials. As you know, it's a new product, so that's coming over.
Nice.
And we're going to give that a trial so that we might be able to implement that into our systems.
You're probably excited with it, right?
Oh, definitely. I love new toys, and this one looks amazing.
Oh, we all do, man.
Sometimes I'm tempted to set up an empty tank with just sexy plumbing and equipment and just look at that.
Just to see the water flowing, right?
Yeah.
All right. And one question that is, at least in Brazil, it's like really common. It's coral feeding, right? So do you guys feed coral? Do you guys supplement with something like amino acids, vitamins? What do you use in the tank?
So with the Trident method, we're trying to run things very organically. So the refugium at the moment obviously produces different kinds of copepods and invertebrates. So we allow them to overpopulate the sump and then go back into the water system to feed the fish and the coral throughout the day. We don't do any supplement feeding for the acropora or the SPS species. We do a little bit of supplement feeding for our LPS species, but we usually just include a little bit of the frozen brine shrimp or MAIS shrimp that we're feeding the fish. So we'll turn the wave makers off and we'll go around and we'll individually feed some of those meatier corals.
Yeah.
We eventually want to play with some more feeding, but we at this stage don't like feeding pellet food in these systems because we can see different chemicals for us that in Australia affect the tanks and the systems, and because we're playing with such small windows of parameters, we're really specific on what we put in the tanks, and sometimes the manufacturing process can have an effect, not necessarily the chemicals in the product, but the way that it's made can sometimes have chemicals go into the food, and we don't do water changes as part of the Trident method. So whatever goes in the tanks usually really stays in the tanks.
All right.
So we're really fussy.
Yeah. So like both fish and coral, they only got like natural food.
Natural food, yeah. So that's what we've found works best for our systems.
Perfect. And you just said like no water changes for you guys.
No, which also helps. We're in Queensland, so some easy places to get salt water, but also not a lot of easy places to get salt water.
Yeah.
So we everything is run, like I said, on the Trident method. No water changes. We put so much effort into making sure our water is clean, and we do Trident tests fortnightly. The guys again are just down the road, so very massive supporters. So massive thanks to them. But it allows us to really keep an eye on anything that changes and replace anything that corals uptake.
Yeah, you're like a blood test from the whole water, right? So it's perfect.
Yeah. It's been fundamental.
So like the original water that you guys used to set up the tank, it was like natural or was like a mixed salt water for aquarium?
Mixed salt water. So forgive me if the internet cuts out. Let's see if this works. We come into our office here. We have some big mixing tanks behind us. So they're 1,000 liters.
Okay.
And we've got RO water on one side and salt water on the next, but we use synthetic salt because it's just so much easier for us to control those parameters. To put all the bacteria and the different organisms into the systems, we just use a lot of natural live rock.
Okay, like you collect it from the reef and bring it to the aquarium.
Yeah, so another company, GBR Aquatics, has helped us with that. We're very lucky. We're right on the Great Barrier Reef, so he can collect the rock and bring it straight to us within 2 hours. Oh. So it's very fresh.
Yeah, as fresh as you can get, right? All right. And how often do you guys need or like want to and intend to frag corals? Like once a week or less, more than that? What is the routine on the Forever Reef?
So our highest priority is the coral health. So at the moment, because we've just moved, as you know, we haven't had a lot of time for fragging, sadly, which that's my heart. But we have a lot of volunteers that we're just onboarding again. So again, about 5 or 6 staff. But we have a lot of people that are volunteering, and we're about to take a lot more people volunteering. So we hope to scale our fragging up and do fragging probably about once a fortnight. It's more so to make sure the corals aren't growing onto each other and hurting each other and maintain. We just want the genetics. We don't necessarily want big colonies. Yeah. So when we cut those pieces off, we like to create another frag where we can, but then those can be sent off to our other facilities. All
right, great. And now, like you said something that pointed a question in my head, like you said about moving. So do you got any tips, any pro tips for it? Anything that you made different that helped?
Don't do it the way that we did it, is all I can say. Not out of choice, but because we didn't expect to move. It was a very sudden thing. We had a very short amount of time. So we essentially, I had to pack all the corals up with a team of people on one day, on the same day, transport all the water, because the water is obviously got all the bacteria, pack down the tanks and move the tanks all on one day and set them all up within 24 hours to then try and get the corals back in. So I wouldn't suggest doing it like that.
All right, crazy.
It's definitely, we've had lots of learning experiences along the way, and that's definitely one that's showed us how we'd like to do that in the future. But again, it was very unexpected.
Yeah.
Where we are now, we're very happy, but we're definitely getting some more tanks so that we can transfer corals into those pre-made systems that are already healthy. So transferring those corals between tanks that are stable, it would just be such a big difference for us.
Yeah, exactly. Like you didn't have time to cycle a new tank and anything like that. Like just get them, throw it on the water and do some ICP tests, right?
Yeah, it was all on the fly, which was, as you'd know soon, very stressful, but very grateful that it worked out really well. So thanks to the water tests and the team of people we had, we were able to get everything up and going, and we were able to move everything successfully.
All right. No losses or any coral that you guys lost?
Naturally, you have a couple of losses here and there. We had a couple of corals that we like to use every piece of coral that we collect. We don't like throwing anything away.
Yeah.
So there's a few pieces, as you'd know, that you're just like, you know what have I got to lose? I'll give you a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
And so a few of those pieces, we lost a few of those, sadly, along the way. But gratefully, we've got 20 to 30 pieces of most species. So it wasn't a loss to the actual facility.
Yeah, it's great.
Just to my heart.
Yeah. Like I said, and mostly like SPS and acropora corals, like when you break like this small tip, it's like, you're probably not gonna make it, but I'll try to help you guys.
It's like, why not, right?
Exactly. And let me ask you something, like when I visit you guys, something that really impressed me in the tour that I made, that was said about the guy who was giving us the tour, was like, how do you guys, how can I say that? How do you guys give some really good value to the aquarium hobby, because it was the thing that made the whole project possible, if you think about like the equipment and the product. So like, can you tell us a little bit about it? Can you tell us like what you think is the hobbyist from the reef keeping, like what are they hold in the coral conservation? What can they do? And how the aquarist as it all like had helped you guys?
Basically everything.